and 16 people in the waiting room. Nice.
Friday, yay. Hello, hello. Hi, people. So I see Taquina, hello. I see Nidhi, Demarius, and Michelle, Stephanie. Hi, Elaine. Hi, Lintum and Elizabeth, Jordan, Robin, Chris, Cynthia, Rashmi, Stephanie. All right, I think I've seen Emma, Cece, and hello. So we're just gonna let people in from the waiting room. So hopefully you have what you need to start writing. We will be doing a mix of writing and looking at works of art and then using them as inspiration. But we're really excited that you're here. And please feel free, I think it was Cece, please feel free to let us know where you're joining us from. I am in Washington, D.C. and hi, Rachel. I am in Washington, D.C. and I'm really excited to be with you all. I know some people from the virtual, hi, Anne, hi, Jane. We do a weekly virtual happy writing hour. And so there's a bunch of people on tonight who participate. And so I'm super excited to see familiar faces and new faces. So just let us know where you're joining us from and we will get started in a minute, I think.
Right. And as a reminder, I hope that everyone saw this in the Eventbrite. And I'm Beth with the Portrait Gallery, by the way, but this event will be streamed on YouTube. So if you do not want your faces to show up on YouTube, please feel free to stop your video, but do stay with us. We'd love to have you continue. But if you don't mind a little YouTube, then keep those cameras on.
And it mostly matters if we get to the point where we want to do some open mic work where you can read some of your work, just know that there will be people that you don't see, but we'll just believe it's a safe space and a loving community wherever we are streaming from. So we'll give it one more minute because we're still a little early to start. But let's see, we have people from Knoxville, Los Angeles, California, Bethesda, a few from California, Atlanta, Old Town, lots of DC area people. So woot woot, awesome.
Yes, welcome everyone. Thank you for spending your your Friday night with us. This is an honor.
This is an honor. So I think I'm going to let you kick it off so we can start rolling, Beth.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for another installation in the Portrait Gallery's participation in the larger Smithsonian campaign of the 24 hours of resilience and a day in the life sort of snapshot. I'm going to enter into the chat the website. If you are not yet familiar with the website, this whole day of December 11th, the Smithsonian is working on collecting stories from people from all over the country and beyond, sharing their stories in this year that's been so difficult, but also really illuminating for a lot of people. So part of what Willona and I are working on tonight is with this campaign, it's so focused on the present and looking forward to the future, but we also find value in looking back and in learning more and sort of taking in the stories from those who came before us, but who have also been through very fraught and in some ways very similar circumstances. So we're going to look at a few portraits, and then we will talk about our own experiences as well and write about our own experiences.
Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. I want to say hi to Jordan. I haven't seen you in forever. Hello. And my friend Eileen just got up, but I have a dear friend from Canada here. Hi, Eileen. So I am going to now share my screen and I will show the first portrait, which is a portrait of Mary McLeod Bethune. And then we will talk about what we see. Let's see. I think I can share my screen. Hold on. Okay. There we go. All right. So Beth is going to give us a little overview about this portrait.
All right. I am not seeing a portrait.
Oh, let's see. Let me try sharing it again. Okay. Start. Are you able to see it now?
There we are. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent. All right. So those of you who were with us this afternoon when we did sort of a museum tour, we looked at this portrait, and you've heard my spiel about how much I love to see portraits for the stories that they tell us. And I love to read portraits just like we read a book. And instead of reading the words and pulling meaning from the words, when we look at portraits, we look at things like facial expression, pose, objects, setting, so many other elements like clues that the artist has included to give us insight into who this person is. So because there's so much going on in this portrait, I always like to begin by asking people to take a few moments to look at it and to concentrate on what stands out to them. So take a moment, and then you're welcome to either type it into the chat or just call out what you notice about Mary McLeod Bethune in this painting. All right, what are your thoughts? All right, Rachel noticed that she's posed behind a globe. So we're noticing this object that the artist has placed there. Obviously, it's intentional. This is a painting. The artist chose to include this globe. Profound dignity is what stands out to Vanessa. Elizabeth notices that she's staring straight into her eyes. That's right. And I mentioned this afternoon that it's so impactful to stand in the gallery with this painting because it is almost life size, and you really get this sense that she's sort of taking you in and I don't know, sort of observing you as you observe her. She has a cane in her hand. That's right. A strong woman standing behind the globe. She's staring straight into her eyes. Yes. She looks like a younger picture of her. She was older at this point. It's true. This was painted later in her life. She's wearing blue, which is reserved for royalty. And yes, again, looking at it over a screen doesn't have quite the same impact, but to see this blue velvet that she's wearing in person, it really looks so lush, and it just makes you want to touch it, that royal blue. The cane that she's wearing is barely visible, emphasizing not her weakness, but her strength. I love that, Kelsey. She actually didn't need to use the cane, but she wanted to be portrayed with this cane because she said it gave her swank. And so she was a woman who definitely understood the importance of an image and what you convey. Let's see here. She's tilting her head slightly. Oh, it looks like the door to the house might be open. That's a really interesting potential symbol. Her head is tilted to one side. A lot of us are noticing that sort of head tilt. This school that she's founded is in the background. Okay, so Joyce is familiar with a little bit of her story. Her facial expression, yeah, it's not quite transparent. As she looks at us, she's not quite smiling or frowning. She has a beautiful hand. She's standing. Her hand is delicate and gracious. She has quiet joy. My goodness, these comments. I don't even know if we can get to all these comments, but these are fantastic. And a lot of us are noticing just the general presence that she has. And whether we look at a photograph or a painting or a sculpture, I think that comes across in just about every portrait that I've seen of Mary McLeod Bethune is this presence with which she carries herself. And I love the way that Betsy Graves Renault captures that presence. And I love all of your comments and how that's conveyed. So thank you. So Willona, should we turn the time back to you?
Okay. So I'm going to, okay, so you can see me. All right. So everything works a little bit different today than usual. So I'm going to give you a little bit of bio about Mary McLeod Bethune in case you don't know her intimately. I've learned a lot in just doing my research about her myself. Mary McLeod Bethune was born in South Carolina in 1875. She was the 15th child of former slaves, and she is best known as an educator, a civil rights and human rights leader, and an activist. And she served as an advisor to 5 US presidents. So that is quite an accomplishment. She believed that education provided the key to racial advancement. And to that end, she founded the Daytona Normal and Industrial Institute for Negro Girls in Daytona, Florida in 1904. That school ended up being combined with the Cookman Institute for Men during the 1920s, and that became the institution that we know as Bethune-Cookman College in Florida. And this is one of the, at the time in the 20s, that was the college, was one of the few places that African Americans could pursue a college degree. So she was a pioneer in education. She organized fights against school segregation, inadequate healthcare for Black children, and she became a leader in the women's movement. She was the National Association of Colored Women's Club's president, and she founded her own organization, which was the National Council of Negro Women. She also opened a hospital that served the Black community in Daytona Beach. She led voter registration drives, anti-lynching campaigns, and she was an early member of the NAACP. After she left Bethune-Cookman, she actually moved to DC, where she lived for several years. She advised presidents, and she lived out her life as an activist. And let's see, there's one person, I'm just gonna mute you really quick. Sorry. I want to make sure that you hear this quote. And so before her death, she wrote like sort of an autobiography, leaving her legacy to the future generations. And in that she said, "I leave you with a thirst for education. Knowledge is the prime need of our hour. If I have any legacy to leave to my people, it is my philosophy of living and serving." So I wanted to share some of her accomplishments with you, and that idea that education really matters, that feeling of dignity that you're picking up from her portrait is really something she wanted to convey. So for our first quick writing prompt, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. We're going to look at the portrait. I want you to write your observations of the portrait, as we just discussed with Beth, but specifically looking at Mary McLeod Bethune's posture and body language. So just take notes about what you see, thinking about things such as how is her body positioned, and what do you imagine about her based on the physical attributes that you perceive in the portrait. So Beth will share this in writing with you. Okay, I was like, you will, I hope. Yes, so we wrote this out so you can have it in front of you, but I want you to just take notes about what you observe, again, just as we did in talking it out about her body and how she carries herself. We'll do this for 5 minutes. I'll play you a little music to keep you moving, but let's just write for 5 minutes. Let me know if you can't see it, Beth, but otherwise I'll assume everyone can see it. have you just pause for a minute, and we're going to transition. Okay, we're going to transition to the next writing prompt. Wait, I seem to be frozen. Okay, I was frozen for a second. Hi, so I'm gonna have you pause on that, and we're gonna build on that by thinking about our own bodies. So for the second part of this writing prompt, what I would like you to do is take 10 minutes, and the prompt is using the theme of resilience. Write about your own body and the ways that your body has had to be resilient during the past few months. I want you to focus on very specific parts of your body, so your hands or your back or your shoulders, but what has your body endured and how has it been resilient? And so Beth will also share this writing prompt for you. There you go. So I'm going to put the image back up. If you want to relate it to Mary McLeod Bethune, you can. You don't have to, though. Sorry about that.
All right, it looks like Bologna might have frozen, but I'm going to continue with her lesson plan. We're going to move on to,
Did I?
oh,
Did I freeze?
I think you did, yes.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, great, welcome back.
Hi. Yeah, so my screen froze, and so let me turn off the music really quick. So I'm gonna stop sharing and take off my auto lock really quick so that doesn't happen again. Okay. All right. So what we can do now, we won't have a chance for everyone to like read what you wrote quite yet, but if you want to drop into the chat like a sentence about what you sort of discovered about your body, like one of the things that you wrote about, you know, one of the body parts, if you want to drop that into the chat, that's a way we can sort of share with each other as we move along. Nice, Michelle. Anyone else want to share? My eyes and how more deeply I see the natural world. Nice. Thanks, Sukrina. Thank you, everyone. Heart's muscle turns to prove itself. This is great. I like that, Stacy, how your legs never fail you, even though they're not dancing. I do miss the feeling of dancing. I've actually written about that a few times. Awesome. So yes, please feel free to keep dropping that in the chat. And we're going to move on to the next image that we're going to write about today. So I'm going to share my screen and Beth will let me know if I'm not there because who knows with technology these days. Okay, exactly. So here we go. I'm going to start. And this is a portrait of Dolores Huerta. Here we go. All right. So I don't think, Beth, you were going to do a close look of this one, but if there's anything you want to share before I do bio, we can do that.
I mean, I think this image is a really lovely example of being exactly what it looks like. She was a fierce advocate for workers and women, and I think we see that in this portrait. And she's still fighting today.
Yes. So this was taken in 1972 by an unidentified photographer. So I'm going to come back and do the same thing and give you a little bit of, I'm frozen. I'm going to come back and give you a little bit of biography about her. Am I frozen still? No? Okay. Thanks. This is fun. Technology is an adventure. Okay, Dolores Huerta is, as Beth said, still fighting. She's best known as a leader in the labor movement. And all the things that we heard about Cesar Chavez, like some of them were her and some of them were both of them. So that's something to know. Dolores Huerta was born in 1930 and she grew up in Stockton, California, in a farming community in the San Joaquin Valley. In 1955, she co-founded the Stockton chapter of the Community Services Organization. This was an activist organization that worked to end discrimination, segregation, police brutality, and improve social and economic conditions for farm workers specifically. She married Ventura Huerta, who was also a labor activist, and they had 5 children. And here's what I learned today. She had 11 children total. So all that stuff she did, 11 children. In 1960, Dolores Huerta started the Agricultural Workers Association, the AWA, and she set up voter registration drives. She also, in 1962, with Cesar Chavez, and Gilbert Padilla co-founded the National Workers Association. No, sorry, the National Farm Workers Association, which eventually became the United Farm Workers, the UFW. In 1965, this is where they really sort of came into their own. They challenged unfair labor practices in the grape growing industry of Coachella Valley in California. And what that means is they led a 5-year strike to get better conditions for farm workers, for migrant workers. Cesar Chavez organized the strikes, and Dolores Huerta was known for negotiating contracts. She was so badass that she was known as the Dragon Lady. That's how tough of a negotiator she was. It took 5 years, but they got in a historic agreement formed with 26 grape growers that served to improve working conditions for farm workers. She also coined the phrase, which Beth taught me, but it is also in the history books, si se pueda. Like, guess who said that? She did. So that means, yes, we can. Obama co-opted it for his campaign. He did mention that, you know, he was worried she'd be mad, but she said it. So that's awesome. Yes, thank you, Stacy. In the 1970s, she also coordinated a national lettuce boycott, which helped to create a political climate for a law that recognized the rights of farm workers to bargain collectively. So she's really been instrumental in changing how farm workers have rights and how they engage with labor practices. During the 80s, she was the vice president of the UFW, the United Farm Workers. In 1988, she almost lost her life in a protest where she was protesting the then president, George H.W. Bush, and she suffered 6 broken ribs and a ruptured spleen. She continues to be an inspiration. She's still active, she's still fighting, and she's been honored for her work as an advocate for farm workers, immigrants, and women generally. So we are going to look at the image again that I showed you, and I want you to do this for 5 minutes. Think about the story that that image is telling you. Like, what is the action in that portrait? What's happening, and like who's kind of being engaged? So I will share that with you. Okay. Oh, give you a little, sorry, get a little music to keep you going. We know it's late, keep you active. Okay. So what we want to do for, I think I'm frozen again. Am I frozen? Okay. You guys are frozen. What we want to do, thank you, Kelsey. Now for the next part of the writing prompt is to, again, relate it back to yourself. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and Beth is going to drop this into the chat for you, write about a time during the past few months when you have used your voice to speak out about something you believe to be wrong or unjust. How did you use your voice? How were your words received? And what did you learn from the experience? And so you're going to have another 10 minutes to work on that prompt. And I will put the image up again for you just to have that in case you want to relate to Dolores Huerta. All right, so let me share that image with you again. Sorry. It's being so finicky. Okay, here we go. let's just finish up the last sentence that you're working on. Okay. So we only have a couple minutes, but if anyone wants to not maybe read what you wrote, but talk about what you wrote about, we would love to hear from a couple of people about maybe something you learned about where you've been these last few months. So just feel free. You can just, yeah, Eileen, you can just shout out.
Well, I don't think in the States you have Métis, but I'm Métis, which means I'm part, you say Native American and settler, we call it. So me, I do a lot of work around reconciliation, and that's what I wrote about. And okay. My last line is, you know, if I steal your ponies and your home and I thrive in your home and I do well off your ponies, there's no time in your life ever where you won't in your own heart say, that is my home and those are my ponies, ever. And so it's a deep thing for me, and it doesn't have to do with the COVID. I'm sorry, I think we're supposed to focus on that, but
no,
it was in my talk when I go around to different churches and whatnot, I always say, we cannot have a reconciliation picnic. We're not there for the picnic yet. We're still in the place where we have to tell the truth. And we got to turn that history we've been taught upside down and shake it until all the truth falls out of the pockets, and put a shiny light on it and come to that place. And then maybe, anyways, I'm going on, but that's what I was writing about because it's big in my life right now.
Yes, I love that. Let's snaps for that. But I love that idea that we're not here for a reconciliation picnic. It's hard work. We have work to do.
We've got a lot of truth we got to tell before we get to the picnic.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you for being here. It's so good to see you.
Happy to be here with everybody, you Americans.
I met her in the woods, and I'd never been in the woods before. She took me hiking. I called it hiking. She called it walking from here to there. But so it is so great to see you. Yeah. Anyone else want to share? Stephanie.
So I just have a line that I'm going to share. It is sore and my words come out fast and ragged. I cannot cover my feelings. Instead, it is fast and hurried like sex that seems ready to be caught, coughed out in flurry and fear. And what I was thinking about, I don't know, with COVID, everybody talks about, this really being home and just the isolation and my experience as a single mother and just trying to make it and realizing that in my own team that people are being paid unequally and it has nothing to do with the roles that we're doing. And today, actually, I had a conversation about that with my supervisor. And that is how the words that came out of me about this recognition and the feelings that I had, that's how they felt, just ragged and sore. And yeah, so anyway, still processing.
Snaps for that. Thank you so much for your honesty and your authenticity. I appreciate it. Two more people if you want. Jordan.
I was really inspired by the idea of how isolation, whereas it was like a dark place at one point, I think that eventually it became a place where I was able to reconnect with my true self in a way that I reemerged more of who I was than I was before. I connected with new parts of myself and had conversations with myself that I would have never otherwise had an opportunity to have. and just I just evolved and became very different. The line that I have that I'll share is, meanwhile, my old humble curves are just heirlooms. I'd rather shine big, wide, waxing and waning like the moon.
Thank you. I love that. I love that you were able to discover things about yourself and to not, not just we can fold in on ourselves, but then we can try to blossom even under these circumstances. So thank you for sharing. I can't see everyone's hand, so if you're physically raising your hand and I didn't see you, please feel free to just Linda.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from the last prompt, I wrote about the struggle I've had to actually think about what I can do, how I can use my voice. I'm historically an activist, and this summer after George Floyd's murder and everybody else's murder, after that, I found myself not being able to speak. So great was my rage. I couldn't say anything and decided that I had to write instead. And so I want to read maybe a couple of very short sentences here that I have. What happens to a lighted match that gets too close to gunpowder? It explodes, it blows up, it changes its form or self-destructs. I can help others speak, but I am mute.
Mm-hmm. I felt the same way, honestly. I couldn't react or do anything, really. I just,
Yeah, I can't get out of the house.
Right.
That's the first thing.
Yeah, it's very difficult to kind of meet the moment when you've been meeting the moment over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So we are right at 9:00. If there's one more burning comment, shout out before we close it down. I gave you 4 writing prompts because I wanted you to get something sort of started. So if you pick up one of those and run with it, because we only did 5 minutes on a couple and 10 minutes in the other, please feel free to keep chewing on it and see what your body needs to tell you. That is, we have been in a holding pattern for so long, but now we may be emerging from it, we may not. We're going to enter winter, but creative writing is a way to kind of let yourself think and breathe in a different way, and still be creative and just kind of grieve what we're all going through. Yay! So that's it for me. Thank you, Michelle. I'm going to give it to Beth to do our salute and salutations.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. This has been incredibly powerful for me, and it's been really humbling to be here and to hear your stories. So please, if you feel like sharing your stories, I think that this is an excellent opportunity for you to get your stories out there. They're worth telling, and they're worth hearing, and they're worth knowing. So that's what this campaign is all about. So I put the link in the chat to take you to the 24-hour site. In fact, I can also send a link to take you directly to the Portrait Gallery site if you would like to share any of what you've just written. If you feel like sharing, please do so now while the feeling is still there. Mm-hmm. We would love to have it. But if it's for you and it's personal, then I totally understand. But thank you for being here. This has been wonderful. I appreciate it. And thank you to Alona, as always, for doing a masterful job of compiling all of this.
Thank you. Thank you, Damaris. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you for sharing your Friday night with us. Bye. Good night.